Welcome. We're on the red couch with Renée Hamad, an extraordinary example of perseverance and adaptability. Renée was born and raised in Cairo, Egypt, but was expelled in 1965 when the Egyptian government took ownership of her family's business. Renée not only worked to help her family survive then, but also later continuously built and rebuilt her own career many times as a result of moving to several countries. Renée has experienced affluence, poverty, and back. And because she lost her roots, she's grateful to be part of a community. A valued and generous member of many communities, Renée contributes through extensive volunteer work, serving on numerous boards, and dedicating her support to helping others in need, to the lucky communities who claim her as their treasure. Renée, I am thrilled to have you on the red couch.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure.
Thank you.
You know, many people take community for granted, but you really don't. I mean, you've really come back and given back to your communities in such an incredible way.
Well, having lost my roots and coming in as a newcomer several times in my life, I have always tried to blend in and help, because I feel that I'm blessed now to be able to help others. And having come in as a foreigner with an accent, I've had to make acquaintances. I've seen people struggle. And having struggled and lost everything my family had, I know what it's like to be poor or needy or need help. So the compassion is there, and it's a almost compulsive need to help.
Well, it's really beautiful, and I know so many people who know you and really think you're amazing. I wanted to start just a little bit about your background in Egypt. What was that like as a little girl growing up in Egypt?
It was like a fairy tale. I grew up with the governors, with cooks, with butlers. I didn't know where the kitchen was. We lived in a very fancy area of Cairo, downtown, which created a problem later on in life, because when I was trying to teach my kids to ride a bike, I didn't know how to ride a bike, so I couldn't teach them to ride a bike. You can't ride a bike on a broken sidewalk. But it was really, I never had to pick up a glass of water. If I wanted anything, I'd ring a bell and it would be brought to me. I didn't know what money looked like. I had no money in my hand. If I needed something or wanted something, it was in my room an hour later.
Wow.
I just had to formulate a wish and it was done. So it's a problem now, because to this day I don't have any sense of money. But it was really like growing up in a fairy tale. And I promised myself after the downfall that one day I would be able to spoil my kids the way I was spoiled.
Well.
And I did.
Yes.
I do.
You have two amazing kids.
Yes, I do.
One's a doctor.
I have a daughter, a physician. She's double-boarded, internal medicine and pediatrics.
Wow.
She takes people from birth to death, literally. She's very compassionate. She's married to a very prominent gynecologist in town, John Yaneri, and they have two adorable little girls, and they live across the street from me.
That's wonderful.
So they watch over me.
It's really, really nice to have that.
Yes, it is. I'm blessed.
So when you were the age of your granddaughters,
yes,
you had this very amazing upbringing.
Yes, I had a driver who would take me to piano lessons, to ballet lessons, to every kind of Arabic lessons. I was not allowed to have friends. I never had the luxury of playing. I had to always practice my piano because I was destined to be a concert pianist.
Like your mom.
Like my mom. And I was supposed to study and always have A's. I couldn't miss the A. So I never had friends. That's why now, in my age, friends are so important. I miss that in my childhood. But I'm grateful to have had this upbringing. It gave me the staunch backbone that I have now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you went to college.
And I went to the American University in Cairo, and that's where I met my husband.
He was your advisor, I believe.
He was my advisor day one, and I didn't speak English, and I asked him to come back and help me fill out the forms, and he thought, right. But I was honest, I didn't know how to read what was necessary to fill in, and so he came in and helped me fill out the forms, and that night, the first day, he said, you know, my best friend over there has a girlfriend he just met, and he really wants to take her out to dinner, but they need a chaperone because in Egypt nobody went out alone. And he said, would you go out with me? And I had never dated, and I never went out with a boy, let alone go out.
Wow.
So I had to lie to my mom and tell her that the principal, the dean of the university, was hosting a dinner that night, first night, to welcome the new students. And she said, okay, the driver will take you and he'll wait for you and you'll be home at 10. So I told him, and it caused a little problem because we didn't have telephone communication in those days. I had a phone, but he did not. So we agreed that we would meet at the back door of the college. So I went in with the driver and he waited outside and I went out the other way, and we went to the Hilton. And we danced and we had dinner. And I noticed that the couple across from me was really very intimate. They were talking and playing under the table. And I thought, wow, that's weird. A first date? It didn't dawn on me that it was us he was talking about.
Oh. He just wanted to make sure he got you on that date.
That's it. He got me for life.
That's lovely. Yeah. Now, before that big event happened, you were expelled from the country. So I just want to back up a little bit.
Sure. What happened was Sam graduated 2 years after we met, and I advised him to leave the country because I knew we would leave eventually.
Yeah.
And in Egypt, a young girl who's not married does not live alone, does not leave alone. I didn't have a passport, didn't know what was going to happen to us. So he left and he started working in Canada, and we corresponded secretly via P.O. box at the university. But 2 years later, Nasser came in and we were expelled.
The Egyptian president.
The Egyptian president. Yeah. We were nationalized, and my father's business was taken over by the government. His factory, his officers, all the cars, all the employees. He was not allowed to go to work. And when he asked them, so how am I going to support my family? They told him, you can steal as long as you don't get caught. So my mom went to work at the music school where she was raised, and they paid her under the table. And I went to work for a French library, bookstore actually, Librairie Hachette, and they paid me under the table. And because we were followed, when the police would go ask what I was doing there, they would say, she's doing an internship. And that's how I was accepted to work.
So that's how you guys survived.
That's how we survived. And food-wise, the servants who raised us, including governesses and everything, worked for us for no money, and they paid from their own money to feed us. Wow. I grew up loving ham, and ham is a very expensive commodity because it's a Muslim country. They don't believe in pork. It was imported, and I never lacked ham. I didn't know that the servants were paying for my caprice.
Wow.
And
because your family was so good to them, and they treated you well when you were struggling.
Families raised their servants' families along. And so they supported us. And that's why I always promised myself, when possible, I would help the less fortunate.
You have done an amazing job of that. And your dad was, actually, it was in 1961, I think, when Nasser changed everything. And,
yes. Mm-hmm.
And then, was it not till 1965 that you guys actually were expelled?
Yeah, and my mom had seen the writing on the wall, and she kept telling my dad, let's leave now while we can. My father didn't believe that he was going to be touched. He thought he was very needed, and they loved him, and he had never done anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But then they got very hungry and needed more, and so they went after us. And the night before it happened, the bank called and warned us. So my parents were able to get everything from the vaults. And the next day, my mom had a container shipped to Greece under her best friend's name, and she stuffed it with jewelry and carpets and everything she could.
Wow.
Because they came in and they did an inventory of what we had, and they said, you're not allowed to sell anything, and if you break a glass, you have to show us the pieces. So when they questioned the marks of paintings on the wall, because when you take down a painting after a while, they said, where is this? My mom would say, oh, I donated it, I gifted it, it fell down and broke. We were able to manipulate things.
So your dad was actually taken away.
One night they came and they rang the doorbell at 3 o'clock in the morning, and they said, you're coming with us. So he left, and 2-3 days we didn't know if he was alive or dead. And my mother stayed up 48 hours, literally playing solitaire to wait for him. When he came back, he was gaunt. He was almost green. He was so pale. And he said, don't ask a question. Don't ask me where I've been or what. He said the 2 other people, Muslims who were picked up, were returned in coffins with red wax and soldiers at each side. And the families were not allowed to open the coffins.
Wow.
So he said, don't ask. And to this day, I don't know what they did to him.
Wow. Thank God he came back.
Yeah. Yep.
We will continue with part 2 of The Red Couch. Stay tuned for part 2 of this interview on The Red Couch.